Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. The conversation you're about to listen to is a conversation I had with Dr. Dyke. He is a doctor of psychology. He's a PhD. He studies both the mind and the body. And one of my biggest takeaway, and I don't know if I should call this a fun fact, but I found it very interesting that he just based on his childhood and the kind of things he was doing when he was much younger, he ended up with a whole bunch of TBIs. But outside of that, he also what kind of transpired came across to me was um, somebody that was kind of forged by his environment and his experiences. And I think that is really true for most of us, I included. So most of us don't realize how the things that happen to us when we're much younger affect us as we grow older. And this is a compelling example of what that looks like. And that doesn't mean it has to be bad. There's no judgment. It's just that it's real. Your environment does kind of impact you in very many ways that most of the time don't realize. But part of the reason I decided to reach out to Dr. Ford is because I noticed that it said that he worked with AI, artificial intelligence, and combined that with wellness to help improve the life of humans. So basically AI for humans, so to speak. And so that's kind of what poked my interest. And then I reached out and he was gracious enough to sit down with me and have a conversation. And so as you can see, you know, um, he delivers innovation through, a whole bunch of ways. But what really poked me was the AI thing, to be completely honest. And he's a coach by profession. I think that part of what he does on a daily is he has, I think, a basketball team that he coaches, or at least has coached. And he's very gentle, person as far as I can tell. And I really, really enjoyed our conversation, and I hope you do too. So if you like uh, this video, please go ahead and hit the like button. Click on that bell that says subscribe. That way, every time I post a new video, you get a notification first, so you get to enjoy the premieres before everybody else. Anyways, so enjoy the conversation. I hope you do, because I did. Dear friends, this is for Dyke on Think with Armel for our audience.
Yeah, thank you, Armel. I appreciate the invitation. My name is Dyke. I wear a variety of different hats. Most of them are centered within the realm of human performance, health, and wellness. So, looking forward to the conversation today. And like I said, hopefully, I've got some answers to your questions, but we'll see.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, first question would be, what got you started in this whole performance journey? So if you want to give a little bit of background on who you are, like what would be how could you summarize your origin story? So who is Dr. Ford?
I'm from a pretty small beach town on the southeast coast of Florida. And, that for me, those origins, those roots really kickstarted I think this whole journey, obviously, a lot of that is hindsight, a lot of reflection and perspective on what those early days were doing for me. In the
Mhm.
moment as a kid, you're not really paying attention to those types of
Right.
things, those formative years, right? It's just kind of happening. And before you know it, you get to a point where ideally you have some time to sit back and reflect. And for me, it was being on the beach and not having shoes on and not having a shirt on and jumping into the salt water of the Atlantic Ocean and being in the presence of nature and connecting with the sand and the temperature of the sun on my skin. And it was free, it was open. There weren't
Wow.
really many rules, nothing was too constraining, and that's a pretty humbling place to be and really grateful to have been given that as a young kid. I just pulled that straw. I don't know
I
how
was
I
just
got there,
watching
why I was
Armel.
there. Those are the cards I was dealt, exactly. And, you go through a series of events in your life from I was 8 years old, my parents got divorced, and then 8 years after that, I was 16, my brother transitioned, and then a few years after that, had some TBI, some MTBI and TBI, traumatic brain injuries, because of the sports I was involved with. And so,
Wow.
all those things together, again, hindsight, it really just changes the way you see the world. And so ultimately, I went to study psychology because I kind of wanted to know selfishly what's going on above my neck, right? All these different contributing factors in my life. Let me just go and study the field that assesses the brain and the mind.
Right,
So
right,
I'm in undergraduate studies and I'm, enjoying the experience, learning some stuff. And at the end of undergrad, I realized, well, the brain sits on top of the body. So I better go study the body. And so for my master's degree, I studied below the neck, and that was exercise science and
okay,
how we move through space, how we learn skills, how, our respiration affects our heart rate during pre and post exercise, a lot of different constructs related to the field
yeah,
itself. And then towards the end of that degree, I realized, okay, cool. I know a little bit about the brain and the mind, and I know a little bit more about the body, but those two things aren't sitting on separate bookshelves. They're pretty connected. So
right,
that's why I went and studied my doctoral work was in psychophysiology. And that's kind of a big fancy word, multiple syllables, psychophysiology. Really what that breaks down to is mind body, body mind connection and the study of. And so throughout the PhD program, my main focus, Armel, was looking at how movement and the presence of certain environments could be a green space versus an urban space versus a blue space, how that affects our attention and intention by way of mindfulness. So that right there was the moment in time that I mentioned earlier where I had a chance to say, wait a minute, how did I get here? And it was probably because of those formative years on the ocean.
hmm.
So from that point on, everything kind of just exploded and opened up into, a lot of the work that I'm doing today. But origin, that's it, more or less in a nutshell.
Oh, that's interesting. So basically grew up on the beach, um, had some, you know, interesting family events that kind of shaped your view of the world. And then initially you started the brain and then you started the body and eventually kind of put that together. So, if you don't mind, like, I will follow up on something you just said. So when you said you had a TBI, how did that happen? What
Oh
exactly?
gosh. So my very first one, actually, I was an infant, so we'll just
Wait,
skip
you had
past that.
two? You've had two?
Oh, I've had multiple. Yeah, I've had multiple.
Oh,
So the first one I was an infant. We'll skip past that one. The next one was I was a basketball player and I went up for a rebound. It was an outside court and my legs got taken out and I went full back on my occipital lobe, so the rear of the brain, completely lights out. The next thing I knew, I was in the car, but I was trying to reach for the outside of the door handle, and the people I was with are like, "Hey, something's up. We got to go to the emergency room." So I spent some time in the emergency room, had EEG, to make sure everything was still firing correctly. I was probably, I want to say 15 or 16, somewhere in that window, 14, 15, 16. And
wow.
then the next one would have been in college. I took a racquetball off of a racket full speed to the left orbital socket, and that energy transferred through my eye, left me blind for about 7 hours. Thankfully, my vision was restored, but that was a concussion as well. And then I had another one shortly thereafter where it was a skateboard accident and took a concrete piling to the temple. Luckily, didn't crack my skull, but completely knocked out. Had to go, trauma, triage, ICU. And then in between all of that, Armel, there's like some mild stuff, right? Like just being an athlete, being a part of extreme sports, doing stupid stuff, and my running joke now is I have a list of things I won't do, and a lot of those things are on that list now. Try to protect the brain and the mind, but yeah, it definitely, I'm really grateful. I don't have a lot of residual effects. I'm sure as I age, things will come and things will go. But for me right now, I really lean into the power of mindfulness practices, specifically meditation, whether
Interesting.
that's body scan or respiration regulation, anything that helps ease my synapses, ease the electricity upstairs, get my thoughts in a linear pattern. If not, things are kind of fragmented, to say the least. And so I really value the work that I've studied, but also what I teach people. And I think I don't preach what I practice what I preach, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. And so how did AI come into play? So I kind of have a fairly decent understanding of your background. So personally, obviously AI became a huge thing. I want to say I first heard about it probably like 2 years ago. I
Mm,
really didn't think much of it, and then obviously ChatGPT 3.5 and 4 and it went crazy.
yep.
So what is how did you come to put this and AI together, and what is your AI approach in this whole wellness and AI journey?
Yeah, so definitely to echo what you said, I was in a similar space where I was kind of hearing about artificial intelligence, but not really thinking much about it. And then in 2023, about a year plus ago, started to partner with an online platform. It's called
Right,
Vital AI, VITAL AI for artificial intelligence. And
right,
essentially, what that platform does, Armel, it's a iOS, and they're working on Android right now. It's an
right.
application, so it's an app on the device, and it leverages language learning software as well as other types of technology that are more proprietary to that company. So I'm not going to speak on behalf of what they have. But they
Sure.
reached out and they said, "Hey, we know the space that you're in. We like your voice. You have a full setup. We know you have a network. Would you want to be one of the featured coaches, one of the featured voices on the app?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. What does that entail?" So to make a long story short, you open up the app and you put in any prompt you want. So you can literally type in anything. So for example, you could say, "I have a podcast episode today and Armel's my host. I've had a busy day. I'm a little distracted. I want to make sure that, our conversation runs smoothly. So help me create a positive intention and a strong mindset for this experience."
Hmm.
And you're literally typing all of that into the prompt.
Wow.
Then you can select out of 8 different options, you can select something like a visualization or a concentration, affirmation, loving kindness, sleep story, even body scan, etc. From there, you can select the voice that you want. And again, I'm one of the featured voices on the app, which is cool. And then you can select the time that you want to have this session run for, just a few minutes or 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 60 minutes, so on and so forth. And then you can select the music. So if you want like a melodic music to play for you, or a naturescape, or binaural, or silent, totally up to you. And then what I think is really cool, Armel, is there's several languages you can select. So they have English, Spanish, French, Italian, and German, and they're working on several other languages, which it's kind of weird when I go and put a prompt in and select my voice and put like German, and I hear myself guiding someone through.
Really? You
Yeah,
do?
it's crazy, right? It's totally cool. But
Oh wow.
I leverage that platform with clients, to make sure that they have access to me 24/7, 365, and not have to wait for the next one-on-one session or the next call or the next meeting that we have. They can just reach for it, type something in on the go. Of course, we can talk about suggestions I have for prompts or experiences they had using the prompt and using a session, and then we can kind of bring that back to our one-on-one or our group coaching session, and then kind of break that down from there. So that's more or less the experience I've had with artificial intelligence and officially becoming the world's first AI powered performance coach. So
Right.
pretty cool. Shout out to Vital AI.
Yeah, I'm gonna add them in the description of this video. Well, that's very interesting. And so what the app does is once you put this prompt, you pick the melody, you pick the voice, you pick the language. It basically has you go through like a session,
Correct.
and it's prompting you to do certain things, stay quiet, cross your hands, or close your eyes, and something along those lines. Is that
Yeah,
right?
but it's also pulling on the prompt that you typed in. So it's using
Okay.
artificial intelligence to
Kind of understand where
customize
you're
and
at.
personalize. Yeah, exactly. So it knows exactly what you want. It's a completely unique session. It's not something like you go on Headspace or a Calm, you just get what they give you.
Right.
You can't customize it. You can't make it personalized. And we all know that in the world of these really intimate settings, you want it to be personalized. If I
Right.
was running
Right.
a session for you, I wouldn't want to say, "Okay, Armel, well, today we're going to talk about a rainstorm and it's sunny outside for you.
Yeah,
You wouldn't be able to get into that
very
moment. So
tailored to
it wants
the
to be
person.
tailored. Exactly.
Oh wow, that is very interesting. I read a lot of I try to figure out what is the latest AI applications, technologies, and I've never heard of this. This is entirely new to me, and I'm definitely going to look into it and see what I can get out of it. So is it like a free app? You have to pay subscription? What's the deal with
It's
that?
a subscription based model. So it's $9.99 a month, which is far less than any other of
Yeah,
the
still a
mindfulness and
good
meditation
discussion.
apps.
It is.
And by no means am I trying to, go on your show and try to sell something
Oh
to
no
any
no
of
no no
your
no! I'm
audience
genuinely
members.
curious. I really want to know, and thank you for sharing. I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. And you can
But
feel free to jump on my website, fordyke.com, scroll down, you'll see the partnership that we have, the collaboration that we have, and you can gain
yeah,
access to that material, that information.
okay, okay, that's interesting. And have you ever considered who doesn't know Elon Musk, right? So how does how does something like the chip implant will play into what you do? Do you think that is like the next step, the implants to the brain? Does that
It
make
could
sense
it
to
could
you?
be. It could be. I'm not as,
Excited?
I would say, even educated on it. I don't really dive that deep into that type of technology because personally, I just don't want anything that close to my tissue. After studying the brain and then realizing how powerful and how delicate it is in the same conversation, I don't think I would ever.
So off the top issue, even if you were offered, you would like, nah.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. I
But,
think what we
well,
have right now is probably enough. But hey, don't shoot the messenger.
that's right. That's right. That's very interesting. I'm obviously not an expert in brains or body parts or anything like that, but I would imagine I've seen some videos where they have like this, well, they have a surgeon on site, but I think they have like a robot that actually goes in and does the surgery and puts in those little things in your skull, and then they kind of seal it up. Kind of scary, but they did say they
Yeah,
want to help people that have had like injuries to where they can't move or eat or things like that. And the first patient has been no, they've taken care of the first patient. And that guy, he's playing chess, he's playing things with his mind. It's insane. I don't know if it's real, but if it is, man,
wow.
that's insane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's as time goes on, AI is only
would
going to
be
become more and more powerful. I mean, heck, look at the toolbar right here. It says AI companion. We
right.
can click
Okay.
that and it would run an entire script for us. So it's pretty powerful what they have out there right now and the wide variety of options across multiple disciplines and industry. It's an amazing tool and I think if we have an intention for it as a tool, as opposed to an escape or as a replacement, I think then it could be really beneficial for us.
Yeah, that's seldom, right? People are gonna use it for what they're gonna use it. It's like a knife. You could peel an orange, or you could, kill an animal or stab somebody. It's just something that you
Exactly.
could use, and people are gonna use it the way they're gonna use it.
That's a
That's
great analogy, Armel. I might have to borrow that one from you. I'll quote you. I just may have to borrow that one.
yeah, I tend to think about, I definitely see it as a tool. I don't really understand the intricacies of what LLMs are, but I think I kind of understand what the stack is and what it actually does. So it's really like a token prediction system where the AI is basically trying to figure out what the next word is, and then it basically prints out that word to a screen, and then that's what you see. And it seems as though, do you use ChatGPT?
I do, yes, sir.
The
So for
3.5 or you use the version
I've
4?
got four, yeah,
Four.
access to both, and I think in a way they're pretty similar. A
Yeah,
little
they
bit more
are.
refined on the four side, but
Mhm.
3.5 is still incredible.
Yeah, it's really good. I've never felt the need to. I've actually tried the 4, but I never felt the need to actually upgrade to 4. The 3.5, it still hallucinates. It still tells me. I test it all the time. Like I'll ask you something I actually know the answer to, and I'll tell it, hey, you're wrong about this, you're wrong about that. And but for all intensive purposes, I think it's by itself, it's saying how good it is, how they could make something seem as though it can think, it can figure out problems, and they have all these other AI apps where I have a buddy of mine that's still in school. There's an AI app that basically you just kind of take a picture of whatever the math problem is, and it basically breaks it down to like line by line. There was one time I was at this place and I did a challenge, so it had a math problem, and I was solving the problem on by hand, and I was done first, but the AI took like 2 pages. However, it really broke the problem down, and you could see every step of the problem. And the fact that a machine can do that, it's
Wow.
take a moment and think about it. It's insane. That's basically magic to somebody in the 18th century. Like you wouldn't see that. That's not something that you come across every day. That is insane. AI
It's
is really
definitely it's gonna challenge the notion of education.
it
I think
already has. I
yeah,
feel
it's
like it already
definitely
has.
changing the conversation.
Absolutely. Like you could write any type of paper you want. You could do presentations. You could create. I mean, if I was in school with this, we used to struggle with Google and Wiki, but man, I
You'd have a 4.0, times 2.
yeah, and you have all kinds of hacks to like kind of make your paper look original. I'd probably do a whole lot better if I was in school these days. Because when I was getting out of school, they didn't have all these apps to solve problems. You could go on Google and find stuff. You still had to like put it together and
Right.
edit and fix and do this and that. But now you have it like that. Like you don't even have to think about it. Just do the prompt and you read it, you like it. So make that's insane. That fact that we can do that today is really mind blowing.
You're referring to mathematics. Is that your background? You were in a
Uh,
mathematical field?
I'm actually an engineer by training, so math and physics
Oh,
I
wow.
would consider that my
Awesome. What type of engineer?
mechanical engineer by training. But
Amazing.
I work in IT. I do ERP implementation, specifically SAP Psycho. We configure on the back end, that is, I don't write any type of code, even though sometimes I have to review the code or the SQL or whatever the case may be. But we really just like set up the system. So usually organizations like all um the S&P 5 companies, for instance, right? All of those companies basically use some type of ERPs. You have a few names. You have SAP. You have Microsoft 365, Microsoft Dynamics. You have Oracle, NetSuite. So you have different players in the market, but SAP is basically the biggest. He has a lion's share. It's a good gig. It's fun. Something I had to learn after I got out of school, but it's great. Not
That's
a
cool.
oh yeah, it's fun,
Are you
fun, fun.
familiar with biomechanics? It's essentially taking mechanical engineering and applying it to the human body. Biomechanics.
I understand the term, but no, that's not something that I actually worked on. However, when I was in school, I did electromechanics, which is kind of tantamount to biomechanics, right? So
Mm,
you're basically integrating mechanical systems with electronic systems for control, actuation, or sensing,
that's cool.
and so forth. So, but yeah, specifically biomechanics. What uh, is that something that you delved into whenever you were doing your studies? Is that something you covered in your?
It was part of the master's degree. So, exercise science had a subfield of biomechanics. So, there were several courses involved with the study of human movement. So, you look at joint angles and limb segmentations. If I were to jump or if I were to slide or run or jog or walk, you can assess that mathematically, essentially, and plot that and translate that into the computer to be able to see exactly what's going on within the skeletal and muscle systems.
And hypothetically, you could take that and apply it to a robot too. Hypothetically, you could.
Yes, so there were some cross pollination and collaboration going on with taking mechanics from the human side, mechanics from the robotic side, merging it
Put them
and
together.
creating now with artificial intelligence, creating a variety of different. Like I
So,
saw recently a dog that's a robot. You can buy it as like a pet, and people have it on
oh,
properties for
in the US or in
in the
Japan?
US. Yeah, so it's like for their security systems. It has a camera and has sensors on it and it can detect motion and it's like this little dog robot. It's kind of crazy. Saw a video of it the other day.
My question, whenever I say these things, I always ask, okay, what is the value? I mean, what's your take on this? Do you think, let's say, if we had Optimus, right, the robot Elon Musk is developing, is that something that you would put in your house if you could afford it? Is that something you put your money on, like robots AI powered robots that can live with humans, that can live around the house? Is that something that you would be open to, or is that like Terminator scenario in your mind?
I think I would be down for it as long as it wasn't too big. Like I'm a pretty tall
Oh,
guy and I don't want it to be taking up any
taller?
more space. You know what I'm saying? So I'd rather have it be like this little miniature, but also capable
Of doing
robot that
mobility.
maybe can expand and clean the kitchen after dinner and then shrink back and be held in a small holding station.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the robotic vacuum some people have that automatically
Yeah, the
goes out
Zumba,
and
yeah.
vacuums the room and then kind of goes back to the docking station. But yeah, I don't
Hmm.
want it to be like the size of a human in my house. Like that would be a little too
No,
much space, a
yeah,
little too much air it's
that's
taking up.
really it. Yeah. How does your so I wanted something I do on the side is I like to work out, like to go to the gym at least once a day. I try to for the most part.
Hmm.
And is there because you see, so for people that are going on fitness journeys, right? There's so much noise. When I say noise, you know what I mean out there. So
Oh yeah.
everybody's kind of a guru. Somebody's trying to sell you some type of supplement. Somebody's trying to get you to buy some type of workout equipment. And from your perspective, as somebody that actually understands how the body actually works, first of all, is there a one solution fits all? I think that is not the case. I think everybody's body is kind of slightly different based on your weight, your shape, your height, and so on and so forth. What would be like a good approach to somebody that decides that okay, I want to take the journey to lose weight, assuming that the person is able to be consistent with it, which is probably a psychological thing, make that decision and just show up every day. What are some things that you think people like us that are trying to get into fitness should consider in order to be successful in that journey?
It's a great question, Armel, and I will definitely say that you're spot on. We're all individuals, we're all super unique, and we have our own needs and our own goals and requirements and capabilities and limitations. And so either we adapt into that space or, we have to find the environment that aligns with us. So I'll focus on able body versus disabled persons. I have a lot of
Okay.
work within the disabled space, but in the able body space, a great way to start is by sitting less and moving more. I think a lot of us are sedentary when it comes to our day to day behaviors. You and I right now, we're sitting down, we're
Kidding.
sedentary. I just actually finished up a session at the gym. You said you're interested in getting your session in daily. I think that's incredible. I would encourage you to do so. A really great way to start for your audience and for your listeners is just to start walking. 10 minutes in the morning,
No.
10 minutes in the afternoon, 10 minutes in the evening. Get about 30 minutes a day. Try that 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 times a week and just pay attention to how you feel. I'm not asking anybody to start a CrossFit regimen or join a Olympic powerlifting team or, go on a ultra marathon adventure. I'm just saying, hey, wake up in the morning, walk 10 minutes at a moderate brisk pace, kind of get your heart
Okay,
up a little bit, but
that's the starter
nothing crazy.
recommendation.
Yeah, just start there. Pay attention to how you feel. Do that for a month maybe and document your journey. Each day, write down how you're feeling, how you're thinking, what type of energy you have or maybe don't have. It's the vessel we have, this human body. It's really smart. It's really an intelligent organism. We just have to give it some time. A lot of times the frontal lobe, what makes us human, kind of gets in the way and causes us to do things that we probably shouldn't do, meaning sitting down for 9 hours a day straight
Right,
and then getting home and saying, I'm so tired from sitting, I'm just going to sit on the couch, and
right.
so the sedentary behavior and the screen time is a large factor in modern society. And I think if we start by just simply walking 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes a day, like I said, times 4 or 5 times a week, it's a great way to start on the fitness journey.
So in my case, I actually started working out. I want to say I was one of those guys that had a New Year resolution. Like I tried it over and over, but this time I actually stuck with it. So
Nice.
I think second week of December 23, I went to the gym down the street. It's called Crunch. Kind of like I don't know if you're familiar with Crunch, but it's a local gym. They are here in Norman. They are in Oklahoma City. I think they're in like 4 or 5 states. And what I noticed was that when I first started going, just actually just getting up and going to the gym was actually very, very, very difficult for me. Just kind of building that habit. And then they have this device. It's called something 3D where it kind of measures like your body, like
Hmm.
it tells you your muscle, your weight, how much fat you have, and so on and so forth. So first day go in there, get weighed in, and start working out. And first week, I started seeing like very almost immediately. I started seeing myself losing weight, and I kind of got excited and got relaxed. And next thing I know is I was kind of going back up. And another thing that I noticed was that whenever I slept, so prior to this, I had no idea that whenever you sleep, you could lose up to 5 pounds just by sleeping. Based on the research I did, it said that, maybe it's the sweating, water evaporates whenever you're sleeping and so on and so forth. Because when I first noticed, because I weigh myself every morning, I have a scale in the bathroom. I was like, how the hell did I lose 3 pounds overnight? And I was working out all day and I didn't lose anything. So it didn't make sense to me. And so I began to realize that, water weight is something that you can lose easily and just like you can get it just like that. It's usually water weight, right? So moving past that, I've been trying to go consistently, and then I tried cold plunging as well. When I first started, I used to cold plunge like literally almost every morning. I stopped that.
Nice.
I would I would heat the sauna.
Oh
It
yeah.
worked out well because I guess I don't know what it does. I guess is it cold shock proteins? They call it cold shock proteins and heat shock proteins helps protect your brain. I don't know how it does it, but you can really feel the difference. You feel like high energy, you're excited, but when you don't, it's like you're just, you have low energy, don't want to do a whole lot. And I found that to be interesting. And then the point I was going to make is I ended up doing something that I've been doing for the past 2.5 to 3 months. So there's this one specific exercise that I do with dumbbells. So there was this guy that went on viral on TikTok where he was doing like bell reps in order to increase I think it's your VO2 max. I don't know if that makes sense to you. So on trying to do that, I actually created a completely different exercise where I take the dumbbell over my head back and forth, and I would crescendo 1 to 20, like do a set of 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 20, and go back down to 1. And that's quite literally all I do, and hit the sauna every other day. And I've been consistently losing weight. And so my question is there a specific type of exercise that I don't want to say everybody, but people could do that will actually work for them? And that's what made me realize that maybe everybody's body is different. Because people in the gym already know me. I've met like 2, 3 people ask me, "Are you actually losing weight?" Because they see me do the same stuff every day, and I'm actually losing weight, and it doesn't look like much. It's just like a 16, like 35 pound dumbbell, pretty no regular dumbbell. I get one of those like 25 pound like a weight, the circular weight, and I just kind of prop my heels on them, and I just do this, and I come back home, and I've been losing weight. So my question to you is, why am I losing weight just doing that?
All right, so we got a few things to break down here. That was kind of fun going on that journey with you. I'll
Yeah,
start with the three-dimensional body scan. Typically, that's a DEXA scan, and you're right, it's assessing your fat mass versus your lean mass. It's looking at bone density, etc.
mm-hmm.
So that's really different, Armel, than sheer weight or mass, right? So you mentioned you're getting up in the morning and you're measuring yourself on the scale. I just want your listeners to understand that when we go on a scale, that's only one bit of information. It's just simply our mass, the amount of space we take up in the environment, essentially. Versus the three-dimensional scan is breaking that number down a lot more in
Specifically,
greater detail, right?
yes.
It's showing you now the fat mass percentages based on lean mass, and that is
Exactly.
fat versus muscle essentially, and
Hmm.
your bone density, because bones, they have weight to them, they have mass to them. So
Hmm.
you may be noticing fluctuations on your scale because of a variety of things. It could be your recovery, which is your sleep, as you indicated. It could be your level of hydration, whether it's optimal or suboptimal. It could be an indication of how many calories you've consumed that day and whether the caloric intake is in a deficit versus the caloric burn or the outtake. So there's a bunch of different factors that play a role into weight. And you may be
Hmm.
noticing the scale shifting, and you may be thinking to yourself, it must be due to this 135-pound dumbbell exercise with my heels raised up on the plate on the floor.
Yeah.
Maybe, or maybe it's a combination of everything happening at once that you're seeing changes on the scale. The more important question, I think, that at least I would be interested in after you do this for several weeks into several months, go back and have a follow up 3-dimensional scan and see if you've increased lean mass, if you've gotten stronger,
I have.
not just
I have.
subjectively, but objectively, and to see
Yeah,
if your fat mass has decreased.
it
Then
had.
there's an
That's the
indication,
fun. That's what's so weird.
yeah, there's an indication there that your body is responding. You would be deemed a responder to that particular exercise. But to answer your question, is there a one size fits all approach? Definitely not. But I do think that a great way to start, I'll say it again, walk. For
Well,
people that want to get going, just start walking. Walking is one of the first things we learn. It takes about a year or so, and it's a pretty complex skill, and we don't really have to be taught how to walk. It's innate, it's ingrained, it's part of our genetic predisposition. Again, able body, not a disabled population or atypically developing nervous system. And because it is a skill that is relatively complex, as we grow into adulthood, we kind of forget about how important it is because it's automatic. But it's also really valuable to our health and to our fitness from a cardiovascular standpoint, from a respiration standpoint, flexibility, mobility. Even our skeletal system benefits from walking because of the ground reaction force. Each time we take a step, we're putting energy into the ground. That energy comes back up to the kinetic chain that helps to strengthen our bones, avoid osteoarthritis, etc. So I can't tout enough how important walking is. And obviously, kudos to you for finding an exercise that works, but it's not a one size fits all situation. I wish it would be. It'd be really easy to be a
yeah.
coach. I think everybody could just figure that out, but that's not necessarily the case.
And another conclusion I came down to was that because after I really started my fitness journey early, 23, but I failed miserably. So starting around March, I started going out. I was working out like 2, 3 times a week, but I basically stayed at the same weight all year. And in December, that's when I actually decided to join the gym. And then I just started showing up daily. And maybe having that thing scan my body I kind of had my personal wake up call because my clothes weren't fitting. And seeing that, looking at myself, I was like, I really have this much fat in my and my BMI. It basically told me that I was overweight, even though I'm about 5'10", and right now I'm sitting at about 190, 293. Technically, and my max weight was like 220. That was probably like early January, late December. I was around 220. Now I'm at 190 ish.
Nice.
So
That's amazing.
quite a bit, yeah. And but it's telling me that my BMI is high. So I guess all those things kind of triggered me. And then I came to this realization that wait a minute, the only reason I'm getting fat is because I'm eating. So I turned it into a math problem. I was like, I guess if I eat less,
Yeah, there you go.
I'm probably
It's that simple. Caloric
yeah,
intake.
it's a plus and
It's
minus thing.
That's
And I
right.
I never thought about it like that until that one day I was like, wait a minute, I keep eating that. I told myself, well, that's the problem. And so I decided to, and then once I figured that out, I then realized that, wait a minute, it's not really the amount, it's really the calorific content, like how many calories I actually eat. You could eat something this small, has way more calories than
That's right.
you in a
And the
large.
timing of it too, when you're eating it, the time of the day
Yeah, eating
plays a
late at
huge
night is
role.
a bad idea for me. The reason I say it's a bad idea is maybe for the wrong reason. I just think it makes me fall in the morning. I such. I just I just don't eat late because if I
Smart.
do, I get that, and my body tells me. So as soon as I stop doing that, I stop having gas. I stop being gassy, and I have a cutoff time. It used to be 10, but now the cutoff time for me really is like 8 p.m. Past 8, I don't really. I try not to eat. On a bad night, I'll just like drink some water or eat some some little snack.
Mm-hmm.
Like oranges, like fruits and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I try to eat healthy. I guess that's why they say you have to work out and combine it with a healthy diet because I think part of the reason why I didn't lose the weight the first time is because even though I was working out, I just really wasn't worrying about what I was eating. I was just eating whatever I'm hungry. I'm just gonna eat. I really started paying attention to what I was eating. But I wasn't tracking it like writing stuff down. I was just like in my head.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I had to eat once a day, and I made sure I ate and whenever I'm eating, I try to make sure that whatever I'm eating is actually making sense. A little bit of fruit, a little bit. I also cut off all sugars, obviously. No
Nice.
sugars. Once in a while, I'll drink some sweet, but just got rid of the sugar. And I just saw the weight dropping almost effortlessly. Sometimes I wouldn't even go to the gym in a couple of days and I'm still going to lose weight just because I already have that like process where I eat a certain type of way. I don't drink, be it alcohol or sweet stuff. So I basically try to stay clean.
Smart.
So
It's good.
it's really a combination of exercise and nutrition. That's how you really lose weight, right?
And sleep
And sleep.
and
So tell me,
hydration.
so,
Water,
so
water,
how
water.
water? Okay, so how does sleep and water? What role does sleep and water has to play in your weight loss? If
Sleep is everything. I mean, sleep, when we go to sleep, it's not like we're just parking a car in the garage, turning it off, closing the door, and not seeing it until the morning. Our vehicles are way more complex than that. When we sleep, it's the only time that we have neurological rinse cycles that flush through our entire blood brain barrier. So, what I mean by that is anything that we consume, whether it's dietary from a nutrition standpoint or hydration standpoint, or even something like media, Armel, if we're watching a movie or listening to a song or reading an article, that's information. Food is information, technology is information, hydration is information. When we sleep, that's the time for our brains and our bodies to sift through that information, to decide what it's going to hold on to and what it's going to release, what it's going to consume and then release, recycle essentially.
so
And
that
that
is
really,
why.
sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
So that is why we sleep to help our body cleanse itself, essentially.
It's one of the reasons. Yeah, it's one of the reasons. And while you're sleeping, the work you did in the gym at Crunch, breaking down your muscles, when you sleep, they're going to rebuild. The misconception is if I go to the gym, I'm going to get stronger. We actually get weaker in the gym, if you think about it, because we're
Yeah,
breaking
yeah,
things
yeah. Once
down.
you, yeah, you get weaker. That's true. That's
We're
true.
breaking it
Nobody ever
down.
said it like that, but I agree. You get
You get
weaker.
stronger in the bed and you get stronger in the kitchen. And what I mean by that is sleep and eating cleanly. That's how
Uh,
you get stronger. Some of the world's strongest humans, they work out really, really hard and then they just chill the rest of the day. Their feet are up, so the blood's pooling into the central cavity. They're eating a lot of calories, so their caloric intake is higher than their outtake. So that's a whole another, conversation. But your question about what's going on when we sleep, everything is happening. And the hours between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. are the most restorative in nature. So this whole notion of you need to sleep about 7 to 9 hours, that's the requisite. While that's true, it's more important when you're sleeping and trying to go to sleep before 9:30, 10 p.m. would be a good cutoff to make sure that your body achieves that 10 to 2 window of full restoration from a
so
cognitive
basically,
standpoint, from a physical standpoint, from a regulatory standpoint, whether it's your temperature, digestion, hydration levels, endocrine, hormones, so much is going on while we sleep. And that's why sometimes we wake up in a slightly dehydrated state because our body has used some water to get things moving.
that's why I'm thirsty in the morning.
And that's why you're probably thirsty in the morning.
And my in my mind, I was like, well, I guess I'm thirsty because I lost all this water because I just lost weight. I just have to replenish. That's very interesting. getting some answers to. Okay, never thought about it like that.
That's why it's important to drink water in the morning. One of the first things that someone should do is get up and have
Drink.
some water to replenish the system. Through
So,
respiration and temperature changes and neurotoxicity, we're changing our hydration levels while we're sleeping. So
mm-hmm.
starting the day with a cup of coffee is a really bad idea because you're already in a dehydrated
I
state.
always do water.
Yeah, so water first, and then if you want to lean into some caffeine, that's fine. But start with water. We're water-based creatures. A large portion of our vessels are comprised of water, somewhere in that 55 to 62% window.
Really,
And that changes as a function of age, of course.
but given that about 50% of you is water, that's
A little bit
I don't
more. You're
know.
probably, I'd say, in the higher 50s.
I,
When we're children, it's pretty high, and then it tapers off in adulthood, and then it tapers off a little bit more in,
and
later
the
life.
younger you are, the more water you are.
Yeah,
So
like a newborn, like an infant. I mean, they're just like squishy and gushy and they're full of water. They're just like
yeah,
little water babies. And then as we grow and evolve and change, those
yeah.
ratios start to change.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So how do we come up with that window of 10 to 2? So I'm just trying to understand, does it mean that if you tend to sleep late, let's say after 12-ish midnight, you're doing more like 12 to 6, you're not getting as much as the guy that's doing 10 to, I don't know, 5?
Yeah, exactly. So if someone was to sleep 8 hours and they went to bed at 10 and woke up at 6, pretty ideal. If someone was to sleep 8 hours, but they went to bed at like 1 a.m. and woke up at 9 a.m., it's not as ideal. It's from our evolution, our ancestors who have been on this planet for far longer than we have.
Yeah.
They were exposed to a lot less technology, a lot less screen time, a lot less of the modern electricity and lights that changes the way our brain has interfaced with the environment. If we can match ourselves up to the planet, the sun rises, the light in the morning is kind of blue, that emits cortisol, it gets us aware, it gets us awake. Then as the day goes on, the sunset is more reddish, oranges, sometimes deep purple. That starts to subside cortisol and turn on melatonin a little bit. And then when it's lights out, melatonin is released. That's a sleep hormone. And so you're ebbing and flowing with the rhythm and pace of the planet. It's a pretty smart planet if, we think about it. It's just that right now while we're here, I've got really bright lights on, there's a lamp on behind me and my window's closed and I'm
Yeah.
looking at a screen and, it's about to be 6 o'clock. So the sun is starting to set. So that
That's
may have an effect on my restoration tonight, but I also know some of the tools and techniques to once
too.
we finish a conversation, let my eyes rest, make sure I go outside, get some good water, get a good meal, maybe do some movement, maybe do some mindfulness practices to let everything subside, settle, and I can then move right into some good restoration.
Very interesting. Wow. You give me something to think about. I mean, it makes sense. I just never really saw things that way. And okay. So if you were to make a recommendation as to what would be, and I know it's difficult to do a generalization as we've talked about,
Right.
but like you said, a good practice is walking. Walking is good. Sleeping, going to bed early is good. Um, Drinking. Is there such a thing as drinking as too much water?
There is, but it's pretty rare. Your body's going to do what it needs to do to release some of that excess, whether it's sweat or, of course, urinate. There's mechanisms that are involved that are help keep that balance. There's, this whole thing about, oh, I've heard people get in really big trouble when they have too much water. I mean, you kind of get yourself sick before you get to that level, so it's quite rare. The rule of thumb, Armel, is going to be one half of your body weight in terms of ounces per day. So I weigh 200 pounds. I require 100 ounces of water per day. That's at a baseline. If I'm
Man,
exercising or I'm having a lot of meetings or conversations or presentations or working with clients, then I increase the amount of intake. Or if I'm in the sauna or the steam, I definitely increase. Or if I'm traveling, I increase. So your baseline is going to be one half of your body weight in terms of ounces.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. So, there's this I've heard. I don't know if I heard this already somewhere. What is why is it not? Because now I think I understand why it makes sense to sleep at night. That's first of all the natural circadian rhythm of the world and the planet. But you have a whole lot of people that do night shifts, right?
Mm.
What do you say to people that have night shifts and therefore have to sleep in the day? I have some people that I know personally that's how they operate. And I heard or read, so I don't know if somebody told me a story that somebody, anyways, what would be the impact of you not sleeping at night for extended period of time? Is there any truly measurable negative impact on your health?
Oh, there's definitely measurable impact. There's been plenty of case studies. I would encourage your audience to check out one of the leading sleep researchers, Matthew Walker. He's from the UK, and some of his work is pretty incredible. They'll show if you have sleep deprivation, you never really get that time back. So, this notion of somebody saying, I'm going to pull an all nighter because I have a project to finish or I've got something happening the next day that I have to get this done, it's
Mhm.
one of the worst things you can do because you now put yourself into sleep debt and you can't ever get those hours that you missed back. You put your system in a full stress response, which disrupts your appetite, disrupts your movement patterns, disrupts digestion, critical thinking, decision making. I mean, you're essentially, when you're dealing with somebody that has sleep deprivation, it's like interfacing with somebody under the influence of alcohol. The brain operates very similarly. You're disrupting the frontal cortex. So there's many variables that are measurable as a byproduct of sleep deprivation, and that's one of the things that I would strongly encourage people to avoid at all costs.
So what are some of the because I think that the story is now coming back to me. I think somebody had not a relative of mine, but somebody had told me that they knew another person that was working. I think it was the name of the place. Maybe I shouldn't give the name of the company. It's a company based out of Oklahoma. Yeah, I had to catch myself. I'm not going to drop their name here, or I'm just
I
going
was
to
smart, Armel. Good catch.
give. So, anyways, they passed out at work and they found out the person had a stroke. But the
Wow.
interesting about this person was that this person has had no history of stroke within their family. The person wasn't overweight. Somebody that if you see and you had to bet if the person was gonna have a stroke, you'd be like, nah, they're not gonna get a stroke. So but the only thing that is really true about this person is this person had been working night shift for at least maybe 7, maybe 8 years. That had been their lifestyle. So I guess my question is there an impact on your cardiovascular system or maybe on your heart or something about not sleeping at night that would make you more prone to having a stroke?
There is. So some of this work has been studied within first responders, specifically firefighters and EMT, or individuals who drive the ambulance. And
Mm-hmm.
firefighters have one of the highest risks for cardiac events and as well as strokes. And so what happens is that they're constantly on high alert, waiting for that next call, waiting for that next signal, and they're only sleeping in like micro doses. They're sleeping like 20 minutes. Wake up, have to go on a call, come back, maybe sleep 45 minutes, wake up, come back, 15 minutes, wake up, come back. So the system, the body itself is never able to really get into full restoration and full recovery cycles. So it's keeping a moderate level of cortisol hanging around in the system, and that breaks down vital organs. That being the heart, of course, as well as crossing the blood brain barrier and going into the brain. And so you start to see misfiring of neurons and synaptic degeneration. And there's a whole host of things that can occur from that, of course. Motorically speaking, you may have some residual byproduct of lack of motor control, motor refinement, and there may be some issues with cognitive control, decision making, planning, problem solving, remembering. So it's not good, and I would encourage those who have night shifts to really be careful and to monitor especially their weekends or their days off, even though they can't get the time back, to try to recover as much as possible. And even during the day, try to move. Make sure you have a movement regimen. Notice I didn't say exercise, just movement in general. Eat cleanly as much as possible. utilize a supplement like melatonin when you're having difficulty sleeping to ensure that you're able to have restoration and to get as much of that time as possible. It's tricky, Armel, and having a night shift job occupation is something that I really it's hard to deal with because there's so many other factors and so many other variables at play.
Yeah, when I heard about that, I was like, if if this is really true, it's like if you know something could kill you, you just wouldn't mess with it. You wouldn't go there. But I also know that there's a ton of people that do night shifts all around me, everywhere.
Oh yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just like, oh, well,
Millions of
the shift
people.
differential to make a little bit more on the night shift, and man,
It's tough.
it's tough. It's tough because yeah, it's tough. And is it easier on so is there a difference in impact of pulling night shifts on somebody that's younger versus somebody that's older, or is it just about the same? It really doesn't matter how old or young you are. I would
Well,
like to think that there is, but I'm not sure.
if you think about it as a function of age, as we get older, we're more predisposed to those
Yeah.
outcomes.
Yes,
So you're
true.
essentially just turning the volume up on a lot of those problems.
Yeah.
And while a youngster may be, quote, safeguarded from it, doesn't mean that it's guaranteed because you may see those byproducts occur later on in life. It's like that old proverb when you're bit by the snake at 6 years old, you notice its effects at 60 years old.
Yes.
That kind of a thing where you think that you're young and you're safe from
Oh
all
yeah, you're
this, and then you
invulnerable.
get older and you start to see the problems arise.
Mm, yeah, that's right. That's right. They really, basically, if you can avoid it, you should. You shouldn't do night shift. You shouldn't like overwork yourself and so on and so forth. And what's your take on when it comes to remedies, right? Natural remedies as compared to your standard pharmaceutical remedies. So do you tend to use natural remedies or natural processes to help heal your body, or do you just go to the doctor and get your pills? What's your MO?
I'm sure you can probably guess what my answer is to that one, Armel. Definitely the former as opposed to the latter. I'm a firm
I
believer
thought
in
so.
how you eat and how you think and how you move and what you drink. You know, you give the system what it needs, it'll respond pretty well. If you break it down and try to put band aids and hide things with masks and try to avoid, then sure, get on the pharmaceutical train, but that stuff will kill you, and it's
Eventually.
it's not, of course it has its place. Medicine is incredible, but it doesn't replace lifestyle choices. We're the single biggest variable in our own health and our own wellness and our fitness and our physical activity and our performance. We are the single variable. The choices we make every single day. And those decisions either put us on this track or the alternative track. And so I always say to individuals, prove it to yourself and pay attention to how you feel. Don't take my word for it. It's just information. Obviously, it's backed by science and it has good experience behind it and expertise behind it, but you have to prove it to yourself. Just because I said half your body weight in terms of ounces per day is the requisite, maybe you need a little bit more. Maybe I
All
need a
right.
little bit less, or vice
Right.
versa. So everyone's an individual. We're pretty much the same. You breathe like me and you bleed like me, and that's what makes us Homo sapiens sapiens. That's what makes us humans. But for whatever reason, we get caught behind the small differences we all have. But
You're
that's the
right.
beauty of the world. That's what makes us so unique. That's what
Yeah.
something we can celebrate as opposed to turn all of our attention into. But we are
Right.
the drivers. We are the individuals that decide where do we want to go on this journey called life.
That is such a beautiful way to put it, and I couldn't agree more. It's one of those things that once you realize and I don't know why it seems so. There's certain things, so it seems so obvious to me now that, duh, why wouldn't you watch what you're eating? But I also do realize that I went my whole life not really caring what I was eating, and now I know I'm like, why did I do that? Why
That's
did I?
okay though. You have the awareness. You can make
Yeah,
those
yeah.
decisions
It's
now.
like you woke up, and I guess everybody kind of wakes up at their own time. Something happens that triggers it, or you hit rock bottom. If something's gonna wake you up, and eventually you're gonna start rethinking most of what you think you know or what you used to do. Start questioning those things. Is this right? Should I be doing this? And yeah, it's true. We are the biggest variable in the equation of our life and of our health. I definitely would agree with that. And I have a little what I call a little tradition that I like to perpetuate, on the show. So every everybody that I host, I'd like you to leave. It doesn't have to be a question. It could be a comment. It could be a question or something else for the next guest that's going to show. You have no idea. Obviously, you don't know who that's going to be. You don't know when it's going to happen. It could be tomorrow or the week after. What questions or comments do you have for my future guest?
I have one question for your future guests. And first of all, I think this is really cool. So thank you for incorporating this. My one question is, what makes us human?
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, what makes us human? I
What makes us human? That's it. That's all I've got.
Okay.
But you got to follow up with me and tell me what the
Yes,
response
I
was. I don't
will.
think it's
I
an
will.
answer. What's the response to that
What's the
particular
response?
question?
And I would follow up on this one, and I'm still gonna ask, but in your view, what makes us human?
Hydrate, unplug, move, aspire, nourish. If you get those five elements down, then the human experience is pretty incredible.
Fantastic. And I have this buddy of mine that wants. So we usually have these conversations about life experiences and culture and growth and things. And he said something that seems benign, but that was the first time I heard it a few years ago, and it blew my mind. So he asked me one day, he said, "What is life?" And at first I thought I knew, but then I was gonna respond, and then I stopped. I was like, wait a minute, what did you say? He said, "What is life?" I was stunned. I didn't know what to say. And then after Googling in my mind, because I didn't even Google it, I thought about it for a while, and then I said, well, I guess life is an experience.
Mm.
What is your take? What do you think life is?
I would definitely say that life in the grand scale is, for me and for us as these organisms, it's the human experience. And what I mean by that is life happens between our first inhalation and our last exhalation. That's life to me. The first thing we do, Armel, when we enter this experience is we take a deep breath and we
Yeah,
probably start to cry, as the little newborn baby. And the last thing we do as we transition out, our body releases, we exhale. And the experience of being a human has
it's between.
closed and transitioned. So to
It's
me, that's what
between.
life is. Life is the space between inhalation and exhalation.
Wow. Well, that's a good one. Okay, I never thought about it like that. I have to write this down that way I don't forget to put it in the notes area later. Relation. Okay. Um, I have one question for that. I didn't write this question. It's a question that my wife gave me, and she kind of wants me to throw it out to to every single guest.
Yep.
If you had a magic wand and you could will anything into existence, doesn't matter what it is, where it is, or how it is, what would you will into existence?
Whew, that's a good question. Shout out to your wife for that one. I'm just buying time right now, trying to wait for my
Yeah.
brain to fabricate something. Let's go with the heart then. Let forget about the brain right now. Let me feel this one out as opposed to think this one out. Even though the title of your show is Think
Yeah.
with Armel. Let me feel this one for a minute.
Okay. That's fine.
I would say, Armel, more compassion in the
Yeah.
world, more understanding of others, less conflict and war and disagreement and polarization, and more unification, more
More
of a,
being more being humans together versus
yeah, more
art
connectivity, interdependence, interconnectedness. Again, we all breathe the same,
in
we
a
all
so you
believe the
mean like
same.
in a spiritual way or more in a like community way?
All
Because
the above. I mean, I
yeah,
think in ways that we can see and feel, but also in ways that we don't have words for, we don't have actions for. And I think a lot of stuff within that human experience, we don't have words for. We can't explain
so
or describe. That's what makes it, to me, so special being a human. I love this experience. I think it's incredible. All
partly
the
because you
stuff,
don't really understand it in the first place.
yeah, it's something that maybe we're not supposed to understand. We're just supposed to experience, to
Experience it.
use the phrase experience. Yeah, that's my response to that question is let's be a little bit more connected. And I don't mean by way of email or text message or
Yeah, I mean like more interconnectedness as from human to human, from person to person, more real connections, not the social media type connections, something a little bit more tangible. And do you think that's something that humans prior to this day and age with media and everything had, or do you think that's something that the world has never really known in the first place? Or you think we used to be better at it as compared to now?
I don't know. That's a good follow up. I would like to think that plants have it. There's a balance and equilibrium within plants,
Oh, okay.
animals, weather systems, weather patterns. Us as these creatures, we're disrupting that. We're getting stuff out of balance because we think we know what's best. We're supposed to be the most developed, the smartest. I don't think we
Okay.
are, Armel. I mean, full disclosure, I think we're a little full of ourselves. And plants and animals, they're the true messengers.
All right, they might understand a whole lot more better. Or they might understand the world better than we do, even though we have some capabilities that they don't. We
Hey, they've
can
been here a lot longer than we have, and they will
yeah,
survive when we don't.
yeah. As animals and trees survive for hundreds, if not thousands,
Millions.
millions. There's a turtle at the zoo. Whenever we went last time, yeah, it just came to mind. What you're saying is so true. That turtle
Yeah.
they told us he had to be like 350 years old.
Yeah, it's amazing.
What?
So cool.
And he was just chilling, just eating dirt.
Oh, yeah.
No love. And we
Minding
had
its
to
own
keep climbing.
business,
Oh yeah,
but not eating too much, right? And not eating too little, knowing
little.
exactly what it needs to eat to survive and thrive. See my point? I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I think we maybe are giving ourselves a little too much credit when it comes to
We
this.
probably are. One of the first existential questions that I had a long time ago was, and I actually wrote this. So I published my first book about a year ago. I actually wrote about this in my book. The question was, and I don't remember why I have this question. But this question is from my earliest memories. For as long as I've been alive, I've always wondered, what if there was nothing?
Mm,
At the time, I didn't even understand what nothing meant. But in my mind, nothing is like, okay, there's no earth, there's no universe, there's no light, there's no darkness, no nothing. And that scared the life, to this day, scares the life out of me. Because when I
mm,
think about it, it's so intense that I have to snap out of it. I have to stop thinking about it. Because when I think about it, it's almost as though it's going to happen.
mm.
And like none of this ever happens, which is, anyways.
Maybe
Uh,
it's already happened though. Instead of
mm,
it's never happened, maybe it's also already happened, or maybe it's happening, or maybe it's
yeah,
yet to happen, right? So now you bring in the variable of the time
yeah.
continuum, time
You
space
don't,
continuum.
you don't know what.
That might
happen.
be a second episode. I don't know. That might take us down a
Yeah,
wormhole.
that might take us on another round. Hey, Dr. Ford, I really appreciate you taking the time. Well, we learned a lot today. Thank you for watching this conversation, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I learned a whole lot about the body, how it actually works, and we probably need a round two. What do you guys think? Anyways, so this is Dr. Ford's website for those of you that are interested. The link to this website is gonna be below. I just really want to appreciate you guys for joining and coming on this journey with me. Special shout out to all my new subscribers. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for hopping on so quick. Thanks for believing in this project. But yeah, if you do like what you see, just click the like button, hit the subscribe button as well. That way, every time I release a new episode, you get to watch it first. And leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. I so far I enjoy reading the comments. It hasn't gotten to that point yet, so I like your comments. Go ahead and write more comments. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you all. Bye bye.